Morning guys, Coach Heather here with Nutrition News. Today we're going to be talking about how to get the most from your food that you can. In terms of nutrient wise, what can we do to make sure we're getting as much from our food sources as we can? So really quick, what's going on at boot camp this week? Wednesday is going to be 80s day. So we're going to have an old school workout, probably have some old school tunes happening, and it's going to be 80s day. So get some hair going, get some funky outfits going, come dressed, ready to sweat it up, old school style. So 80s day, all day Wednesday, guys. Hope you can make it. Also exciting this week is the end of our 8-week challenge. So we had an 8-week challenge going on at the gym, and it is going to be coming to its conclusion this weekend. So Saturday, we're having a great celebration at Best Western, 7 p.m. So we're going to be looking at our winners from our 8-week challenge and celebrating that. Also acknowledging the 6th anniversary of FBBC here in Kincardine. So that's exciting too. So if you can make it, come on out to Best Western. Just let us know, and we'll be sure to save you a spot. All right, guys. So in terms of nutrients and how we can get the most from our food as we eat, so as we chew, bite, we're setting off a series of mechanical and chemical changes that are going to affect the food that we eat. So it's going to affect nutrient content. It's going to affect the bioavailability. Isn't that a nice word? So basically what that means is how much our body's going to be able to digest the nutrients from that food. And so this means that some nutrients are indeed best available when they're eaten raw. Other times cooking is also going to make that food more bioavailable, so the nutrients are easier to absorb. Also breaking down, cutting them, other forms are going to make foods in a better form for us to get the most from those foods. So first one of the ways to improve our absorption, what we're getting there, is to go local and eat it as soon as it's been picked if we can. So eating straight from the earth is going to maximize vitamins and minerals. And of course they're more delicious when we can get our produce quick and local. So plucking from the soil, from a vine or from a bush or from a tree, you're separating it from its nutrient source. So as soon as we do that, we want to consume it as quick as we can. The longer it is separated, the more nutritional value that it is going to lose. So we want to pick it local, we want to pick it fresh, and then consume it as quickly as we can. Some experts estimate that the produce we consume in the grocery store may have lost 15 to 60% of their vitamins. So ideally we want to eat it within 72 hours of when it's been harvested, if we can. I mean, in a perfect world. But just keep in mind, circumstances aren't always perfect, but if we can, we want to go local and we want to get it as fresh as possible. So I know there's the long battle of organic versus traditional, and that is a whole other debate. But when it comes to produce, local is king. And so that way we can get it fresh and consume it as quickly as possible. So perfectly, ideally within that 72 hours, we're getting as most from that fresh food that we can within those 72 hours. So other ways we can get more nutrients: we can soak, we can chop, we can crush, and we can blend. So basic preparations can make vitamins, minerals, and other compounds more available. So for example, cutting up fruits and vegetables. Generally, this is going to free up nutrients because it breaks down some of those rigid cell walls. So when you're thinking things like carrots, when we chop them up, it's going to break down some of the cell wall, make it a little bit easier in terms of absorption. Crushing and chopping onions and garlic. So this is going to release allanase, and that's an enzyme in foods that helps form a nutrient called allicin. And when we eat allicin, it helps form other compounds that may protect us against disease. So that's why a lot of recipes, they'll ask you to crush the garlic and let it sit for about 15 minutes before you chop it up and use it. That's because it's releasing those enzymes that are very helpful for the body. And when the home remedies and stuff, you dice the garlic and crush it and then let it sit. So it's releasing those enzymes that are going to help the body fight. Soaking grains and beans, what that is going to do is it's going to reduce phytic acid. Because what happens with phytic acid is it actually begins to inhibit the absorption of iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium. So when we soak those grains or beans, it's going to reduce the phytic acid in there. And then after that, we can look at how foods are stored and when they're stored. So ideally, we want to store them right away. So in terms of how we store them, where we store them, we want to make it in a place where you're most likely to access them. So don't chop them up and then stick them in the back of the fridge where you don't see it behind the egg cartons. Make sure it's in a place where it's readily available. Also, storing foods is going to slow down nutrient loss. So heat, light, and oxygen, those are all things that can degrade nutrients and decrease the value in there. So if we can get them stored quickly, and slow down that nutrient loss, of course, that's something we want to look at. So how they should be stored in terms of vegetables, except for those of the root variety, in the refrigerator. So put them in the refrigerator, clean them up, prepare them however you're going to prepare them, get them in the fridge. Fruits except for berries, so this includes tomatoes and avocados, at room temperature, away from direct sunlight. So I know a lot of people put their tomatoes and avocados in the fridge. Actually, they're best at room temperature, and then just out of direct sunlight. And all cut fruits and veggies. We can put a little squeeze of lemon juice on there and then put them in an airtight container. Cut produce rapidly oxidizes, and vitamin C is an antioxidant, and that's actually going to slow down the decay. So when you're cutting your fruits and veggies, put a little squeeze of lemon juice on there, a little vitamin C, and that is going to slow down the decay of those vegetables, keep them a little fresher. Also, we can talk about water-soluble and heat-sensitive nutrients. So heat is going to break down vitamins B1, B5, folate, and vitamin C. So you're going to get most of these when you eat certain foods raw. So things like sunflower seeds, peas, beet greens, and Brussels sprouts, great sources of vitamin B1. Sources of vitamin B5, we're looking at broccoli, cauliflower, kale, and avocado. Folate, things like spinach, turnip greens, and broccoli. Also vitamin C, bell peppers, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Generally, these are best eaten raw because that is the best way to absorb these water-soluble vitamins. So for example, if you're going to take raw spinach, it's going to contain 3 times the amount of vitamin C than if you cook that same amount of spinach. So just being aware of those foods that are better to eat raw than cooked. So you lose water-soluble B vitamins and vitamin C when you boil them. So if you'd like to cook those foods that I just mentioned, your broccoli, your spinach, your cauliflower, things like that, if you do prefer them cooked, let's look at ways that they're not going to be exposed to too much heat or too much water. So blanching, steaming, sauteing, roasting, microwave, all better options than to help keep those nutrients in the foods that we're consuming. Also, know which foods are best when cooked. So some of our foods are actually going to make those nutrients more available for absorption when they are cooked. So in terms of those, we're looking for, sorry, I'm losing my notes here. So when we're cooking food, we can lose between 15 and 55% of our nutrients when boiling in water. Not always the case, but in general, we're going to lose 15 to 55% of nutrients. So that is why we don't boil a lot of our why we don't boil a lot of our food. So there are some things that cooking is good for. So cooking can significantly increase the bioavailability of lycopene, and that's found in tomatoes. And so research has shown that lycopene increases by 25% when tomatoes are boiled for 30 minutes. So stewed tomatoes are actually the best way to have your tomatoes. Cooking is also going to increase that bioavailability of beta carotene. So that is found in your red, orange, and yellow plants like tomatoes, carrots, sweet potatoes, spinach. And again, we talked about preparations breaking down cell walls, and that cooking is going to help break down the cell walls of those fruits and vegetables so that the body is able to absorb them more readily. Cooking is also going to denature proteins in eggs and meat, making them more digestible. So those are things that obviously are better cooked. And it also makes iron and other minerals more available for absorption by decreasing oxalates and acids that make the minerals inaccessible by binding to them. So there are certain times that cooking is going to improve the availability of those vitamins and nutrients in our food. Another thing too, guys, if you end up boiling your veggies, don't be afraid to save that liquid and use it in a soup stock, or if you use it in your shakes or your smoothies or anything like that. Because just because it's lost out of the food, that water that you're preparing in can actually be very useful. Or sometimes, like if I'm boiling my broccoli or my cauliflower, I'll use that water to then make some rice or make some pasta and try and get as much from the food that we can. So if you can, repurpose that water that you used for boiling into a soup or something like that. Other thing I want to talk about really quickly is pairing. So pairing food strategically can maximize the nutrients that are absorbed as well. So one example is pair fat with fat. Eat foods that contain fat-soluble vitamins. Those would be your A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. Those are your fat-soluble vitamins. So you want to pair that with a dietary fat. Fat-soluble means that having the fat consumed at the same time as these vitamins are going to make them absorbed by the body. Without the fat, you're not going to be absorbing them. That's why they're fat-soluble. So when we think of our fat-soluble vitamins, so vitamin A, sources are going to be sweet potato, carrot, squash, for example. Vitamin D would be your eggs, your mushrooms. Vitamin E, we're looking at spinach, Swiss chard, asparagus. Vitamin K, kale, spinach, broccoli. So all of these things you're going to get more benefit, more absorption when we compare it with a healthy fat. So when we're talking about healthy fats, we're looking for 1 or 2 thumb-sized portions of things like nuts, avocado, olive oil, coconut oil, and butter. So some healthy fats to help absorb those fat-soluble vitamins from the foods that we're eating. One thing that's pretty cool too is that foods like salmon, which contains vitamin D, egg yolk and liver, which have vitamin A, and sunflower seeds, they have vitamin E. They are good on their own. They don't need a fat-soluble buddy because they contain fat within them. So that is pretty cool. They maximize their own absorption just on their own. So that's a cute thing. Other thing too is pairing iron with vitamin C is going to help with that absorption. So any iron source that is non-meat is known as non-hemi iron, and non-hemi iron is not as easily absorbed in the body as an animal source, as hemi iron. So to absorb the non-hemi iron from plant sources, we can do that up to 6 times better when we pair it with vitamin C. So when you're looking at those iron sources that are plant-based, in order to increase the absorption up to 6 times, we just pair it with vitamin C. The vitamin C helps that absorption in 2 ways. It can help the plant food let go of the mineral. Release it, make it more absorbable for the body. The other thing too is that vitamin C can block other dietary compounds that are going to inhibit the absorption of that iron. So when we're talking about that, we're thinking about things like spinach, kale, soybeans, and lentils. So those are great sources of non-hemi iron. So they're not animal sources, they're plant sources. So in order to get our absorption rates maxed out, we can put a squeeze of lemon juice on there, some orange slices, some strawberries, some chili peppers, things like that, where we're getting that vitamin C to help with the iron absorption. So yes, think, your spinach salad, you can put some orange slices on there, a squeeze of lemon, a little lemon juice vinaigrette kind of thing, and that is going to help maximize that iron absorption from the foods that we're eating. So yeah, that's just a little bit about how to get the most from the food that we have. And this is a great time of year, guys, because there are farmers markets everywhere. The other thing too I wanted to say is, don't discount frozen foods. Do a little bit of research, because there are a lot of companies out there that are aware of the research that's being done. So you do your own research, and see what their practices are, because there are a lot of places out there that they will let you know how fast they go from harvest to frozen. So remember, we talked about earlier, within that 72 hours, if they can get it from the field and frozen as quickly as possible, it is still maintaining those nutrients. So when we talk about that time frame to maximize the nutrients that are still available, we want to get them prepped or stored or consumed as quickly as possible. So do a little bit of research, or call, see what you can find online, to see which frozen options are best as well, because definitely when winter comes, we're not able to have those ready food sources that we do right now. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, concerns, send me a message. It can be on here, or private message me. Most of you will have me as a friend on Facebook, but if not, feel free to add me. It's Heather and then capital M, FBBC. So yeah, hunt me down, make me a friend, and then you can send me any messages that you guys have or any questions and concerns. So those watching that are campers, remember Wednesday, we want to see your 80 hair, your 80s workout attire, and come ready to rock it old school style. All right. I will see you next Monday on here, but hopefully I'm going to see you tomorrow morning in the gym, because I will be coaching Monday morning here. All right, guys, take care. Have a great day.